Hello and welcome to the Nomiki Show. I am Nomiki Konst, and today is the day that we need to speak about Neera Tanden. Yes, it is true that the arc of the universe is long, but, it does sometimes bend towards justice, even just for a moment.
I have to tell you, I'm very disturbed about your personal comments about people. It's not just one or two. I think you deleted about 1,000 tweets. And it wasn't just about Republicans. And I don't mind disagreements in policy. I think that's great. I love the dialectic. But the comments were personal. I mean, you call Senator Sanders everything but an ignorant slut.
That is not true.
And when
Who knew that a senator from Louisiana, John Kennedy, a Democrat, by the way, turned Republican, would be my champion? Calling Neera Tanden out as she so richly deserves for something that we all know is true. She has been as bad as the right in lying about people, smearing them, stirring up social media storms against them. I know because she did it to me. And in my case, her smears led to frightening personal threats that I will never stop talking about because it needs to be called out. And I know others who have felt her sting as well and have also received threats as a result. Well-known people and folks, just regular organizers. Well, there has to be consequences for these actions. It's ironic that her confirmation hearing was taking place the same day as the impeachment trial of the former president for stirring up a mob with lies and fake allegations. If we are going to hold Donald Trump to account, if we are going to hold Marjorie Taylor Greene to account, then we have to hold Neera Tanden to account too. Now, she didn't incite a mob, but she has incited anger and smears and used lies to rile people up. Let's play that clip.
when you said these things, did you mean them?
I wouldn't have said ignorant.
Senator, I have to say, I deeply regret my comments.
I understand that, but
And
when
I
you
feel
said
badly
them, did
about
you
them.
mean them? I understand you've taken them back, but did you mean them?
I'd say the discourse over the last 4 years on all sides has been incredibly polarizing.
I'm asking about yours. Did you mean them?
I really feel badly about them, Senator.
Did you mean them?
I feel badly about them.
Did you mean them when you said them?
I mean, I would say social media is I've
Did
heard
you
a
mean them
terrible
when you
discourse.
said them?
I feel terribly about them.
Did you mean them when you said them, or were you not telling the truth?
I mean, I feel badly. I look back at them. I said them. I feel badly about them. I deleted tweets over.
Are you saying that because you want to be confirmed?
No, I felt badly about them. And
Did you
deleted
mean them when you said them?
Senator, I must have meant them, but I really regret them.
Seriously, she blames everyone else for her outrageous behavior. The last 4 years were so polarizing. Social media is so tricky, whatever. We can't keep looking the other way and saying, oh, okay, well, that's Neera. Oh, that's the internet. That's Twitter. That's just Joe Rogan. So she is hoping we will look the other way again and let her have this promotion to run the budget of the United States of America. Maybe if I thought she was just personally rude, I might say, okay, let bygones be bygones. I've done that before. But that isn't Neera Tanden at all, who ran an organization that got hundreds of millions of dollars from corporate and foreign interest groups. Her behaviors are intentional and a direct extension of her commitment to the donor class that underwrote her neoliberal think tank. She used that budget that she had, all that money, as a weapon for corporations and foreign interest to suppress movements, to smear leftist leaders, organizers, and anyone in the way of her agenda, which was the agenda of her donors. She wielded the politics of personal destruction to get what she and her donors wanted, and now she wants to be promoted to the budget director, where she can solidify corporate control of federal spending. And that's where the policy meets this. We have to say enough is enough. And of course, the person who has more than anyone has the right to do so, Neera Tanden, that person was sitting there today chairing that hearing.
I want the record to reflect that I did not call Senator Sanders an ignorant slut. Okay?
I don't know how I should take that, Senator Kennedy.
That's right. The chair of the Budget Committee, Senator Bernie Sanders, who Neera Tanden trashed over and over and over again the last 5 years, and every single one of his supporters, family members as well. Senator Sanders controls this confirmation. So just say no, Senator Sanders. Just say no. It's not just about you. It's about the attacks on your wife, your family, your surrogates, your campaign staff, your millions of followers. Let's not forget that she not only pushed out conspiracy theories against your agenda items and used race and other conspiracies as a weapon against them. She went after people who were trying to reform the Democratic Party on your Unity Reform Commission, which you were a part of. Targeted them with thousands of troll accounts to put fear in them, which inspired others to threaten them in real life. All because what? They wanted to reform the Democratic Party? But that's not the end of it. It kept going. They pitched articles that were later fact-checked and debunked, but the damage had been done at that point. The people had been smeared. They led to lawsuits. It was a mammoth institution that she ran, not to get policy changes or improvements or progress, but to block the left and to preserve the corporate class and to peddle influence on other lawmakers. This is beyond Twitter feuds. It is about her weaponizing her power against the movement to challenge big, moneyed interests. And if we don't stand up when we have the power to do so finally, to stop them from being rewarded, she's not even being punished. We're just trying to stop her from being rewarded. If we don't do it now, Senator Sanders, then what is the point of all this? What is the point of taking hold of power? People in your movement that you worked for, towards creating over the last 40 years of your commitment to public service, the people who joined you along the way, who put themselves out there for you, have been hurt by this woman. Some people aren't allowed back into their old jobs. They lost jobs. They're out of the movement entirely out of fear of retaliation. They've been bullied, are scared, traumatized. So Senator Sanders, do what's right for the people who supported you and what you stand for along the way. You have the power to do so. If we don't do it now while we have the power, then what is the point? We have a great show today. Jordan Zakarin and our very, very own Simon Narode will be here, giving us their takes on the latest I can't believe I have to say that, the latest impeachment trial and other news, of course. And Professor Deborah Levitt will share insights from her new book on the reality and fantasy of the animated world. And right after the break, we will discuss the big news about organizing efforts at Amazon. Investors from Europe, the UK, and the United States teamed up to tell Amazon to knock off its union-busting tactics. Well, we have an organizer, Chris Smalls, here to talk about Amazon, where he was fired from for organizing. That'll be right after this break. We have Chris Smalls. Welcome back to the Nomiki Show. We are so thrilled to have Chris Smalls, who is a former Amazon employee, and he is the founder of the Congress of Essential Workers, TCOEW. Smalls was fired from Amazon's fulfillment center in Staten Island in April, the beginning of the pandemic of last year, when he led a group of colleagues from the building during lunch hour in protest of what he saw at as the company's inadequate response to the coronavirus crisis. They were simply calling for the building to temporarily close down. Shocker, as they made the building more stringently sanitized and protected workers. Now we have news out of Alabama, where workers are organizing, and Amazon, we've been covering on the show, has of course been pushing back. And today's news has come out saying that the investors of Amazon in Europe, the UK, and some in the United States are calling on Amazon to knock it off. Stop the union busting. Before we go, we want to play a real quick clip of a video of what's happening.
Even when they go use the restroom and close the door behind them, they have something up there saying vote no against the union.
Amazon actually had the city to come out there and recalibrate the red lights so they can stop and chat with us.
They are coming and stopping us from working, doing our jobs, to basically ram the information in our heads about why we shouldn't have a union.
I mean, this is old union busting tactics, Chris. You've seen it up close. You've been calling attention to this for the last year, but they use technology now. I mean, the data, the facial recognition tools, the effing red lights. Like, what? This is insane. Yeah. This is I shouldn't be baffled, but I am. What's your take on what's happening right now?
Yeah, I'm not. I've seen it all. Like you said, I was a part of the machine, so I sat through these union busting videos and training videos. I seen them. I seen how they are very divisive inside the company, the way the system is built in there, and I'm not surprised. We seen the headlines come out, the Pinkertons, the CIA intelligence. We know that these big tech corporations, they control everything. They want to control any and everything. So why should we be surprised at what's going on now?
I mean, of course, Amazon licensed facial recognition software to the U.S. government and other, who knows who else. Unfortunately, we don't have access to all that information, but there has been several reports that that the government uses it for quote unquote security purposes. When you were, or what inspired you actually, for folks who don't know your story, what inspired you to initially start organizing? I mean, and why you? Were other folks talking about this too, or?
Well, after they fired me, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I was doing the right thing. And what really motivated me, inspired me to continue organizing was the smear that was supposed to be attempted on me. Calling me not smart or articulate, make me the face of the whole unionizing efforts, ironically. So I kind of took that and I ran with it, that came from David Sapolsky, and that was in a meeting with Jeff Bezos. So
who was that? Who was that?
His top general counsel, David Sapolsky. He's the one who made those remarks in the meeting with Jeff Bezos. And when that memo came out, that right there was the turning point for me to take this full on. And that's what I've been doing ever since for the last 10 months.
So tell us a little bit about what the union busting looks like. What some of this stuff has been illustrated in the video about, the bathroom stalls and voting no. But what does that pressure campaign look like? And are people conscious of it at first?
No, this is something we've never seen before. I could tell you they're going to the extreme measures, putting the installments. We had those prior to the tactics. They always install those things, but to have it directly aimed at the union and saying the dues are bad, and the benefits of the union are not going to be better than Amazon after we've seen what this company has did for the last 10 months with this virus, neglecting our safety and concerns and our conditions and the people that we lost, neglecting all of these facts, even retaliating against workers like myself and others that they fired over the course of this pandemic. That tells you right there that this company doesn't care about anybody. You are a machine. You're nothing but a number to them, and you're replaceable. So, the fact that they're pushing back this hard on the union, that tells you that this is probably something that we need, So I'm hoping that the workers are using that motivation and seeing the outside support from all around the world, basically, that's watching Alabama right now. And that's what I'm traveling down there for this week, to stand in solidarity with the workers and with the union. I have a call scheduled for tomorrow with the president of that union, and I want to make sure that the workers get exactly what they deserve.
What are the conditions like?
Oh, well, I used to tell my new hires, if you got a gym membership, you might want to cancel it. These buildings are massive. We're talking 1.5 million square feet, 14 NFL football fields, the one in Staten Island. You walk in the state of Rhode Island every day. And that was 10 hours a day. And if you're a supervisor, you're working 12 hours, 14 hours. And if you have a commute like I did, I lived in Jersey, I had to commute 3.5 hours each way. So I had to work a 12-hour shift and then commute 3.5 hours. So wow. That's the working class for you. And, that's what I did at Amazon.
And they recruited you in Jersey, or or you?
Oh, I actually, I opened up 3 buildings for them. I opened up the one in New Jersey, back in 2015, EWR9. Then I transferred to BDL2 in Connecticut in 2017. And when JFK 8 opened up in 2018, I transferred back from Connecticut. So I was there from the beginning and up until my termination.
And just in terms of like the pandemic, I mean, how just a reminder to folks who may not have known your story from before, what were they doing for their workers or not doing for their workers? I mean, remember this our country was shut down. I know it's a lot has happened since, and we're still in the pandemic. But what was that? Go ahead.
New York was the epicenter, and they wasn't doing anything. We were actually having parties. We were having, it was business as usual. We were having activity committee parties. We had no PPE, no facial mask, no cleaning supplies, no real enforcement, no policies. None of these policies existed. No temperature checking, nothing. And when I sat in the cafeteria for 10 hours a day for an entire week, trying to get some answers from the general manager and from, higher ups, we got nothing. I got quarantined. And that was a silencing tactic for me, But
you got quarantined. They were like, you need to leave and not come back because we think you might have COVID and go quarantine. And that was their union, dissent, go quarantine them.
Pretty much. It was the same union busting tactic, but not in the sense it was about health and safety this time. And I was the one who sent a colleague home who was sick, and she did test positive. So they tried to use that as a reason. But I said, what about all the hundreds of workers she'd been around for the entire week prior? And what about the person I ride to work with every single day? And what about you guys in the office? I've been in the office all week. And they was like, no, it's just you. So it didn't make any sense to me. Out of 5,000 people that come to this building, you're going to quarantine me just because I'm trying to help get some health and safety implemented into the building. It didn't make sense. And I knew that was the reason they were targeting me to stop inevitably the protest, but I still carried on with it.
You're part of a class action lawsuit now against Amazon. And I think we have a clip of that. If we can show the class action lawsuit. What's the movement on that? How far reaching is it?
Yes, I could tell you up to date. Amazon is trying to get it dismissed. That's
shocker. I'm so surprised that they would try to get a lawsuit dismissed against them.
Of course. That's where we at right now. They They hired their attorney, and the latest I have, that they sent the letter to the judge to get it dismissed, and that's where we at right now. They got to file a motion or something like that, and I have to wait for their response. But no surprise there either.
Jeff Bezos stepped down as the head of Amazon, and he's moving to the board, which, musical chairs. Is there any sort of reason you've heard as to why he did that now?
I can tell you this, a combination of things. I don't think he would have resigned had I not did what I did. I don't think that he would have resigned had all the people that spoke up this past year, did what they did. I don't think he would have resigned this year. So we play a vital key. I'm pretty sure some legal advice that's telling him to step down as well. There's a lot of pending cases that are not even out there yet that I know of. A lot of pending cases coming his way. There's workers that are still dying. We just lost a worker a few weeks ago. He needs to be held accountable. So for legal purposes, I'm pretty sure he was advised to do that. He can say to the public that he's going to venture into space or Blue Origin, whatever that BS is, but I don't believe that. I believe that he was advised to step down. And Andy Jassy is no better. His replacement, his shadow. He's definitely CIA intelligent. Pro intelligence and all of that. And
is his background in foreign?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's approving. He approved the facial recognition. He's coming from AWS. He's tech savvy. He talks nothing but numbers and data. He made this company what it is. He's the one behind the machine, and now he's taking over. So he ain't gonna be any better. He's not gonna come in there and align with workers in the warehouses demand. So once again, we're going to continue doing what we have to do.
Chris Smalls, I know this fight is going to go on for a while. We appreciate you coming on to talk about the organizing effort, really nationwide now. And this is a day where, listen, if the city of New York is going to divest, if investors are going to divest from Amazon or warn of divestment, if they don't, knock it off, then the kind of work that you've been doing seems to be paying off, especially in a pandemic. So thank you for stepping up and for your courage and for speaking out. I really appreciate you. And come back on anytime.
Absolutely. Right.
Thank you so much. We have a busy show today. We will be right back. We're going to be talking about, speaking of technology and the future of images, and we're going to be talking with Professor Deborah Levitt. She is the author of The Animatic Express, Animation, Vitality, and the Futures of the Image. I know I'm going to learn a lot about that because this is definitely not my area of expertise, but we'll be right back right after the break. back to the Nomiki Show. I spent this morning chatting with our friend Josh Fox, who is the author of The Truth Is Changed. We were covering the first book of the book series for February, our book club. It is the Nomiki Show book club. We are covering his book, The Truth Is Changed, which talks about like truthiness and how reality has shifted and how there's a group of people in this country who are manipulating reality, whether it's elections or industries that are sowing disinformation or instigating. It's a fascinating book. It's off of his one-man show that he toured the country doing for the last 2 years, and now it's about to be released as a film. But you can join us at the patreon.com/thenomiki show. Become a book club member. We have 3 different memberships. The first is just 1 book a month. The second is 2 books a month. And for the people like myself who like to challenge themselves to the point where they don't sleep, you can do 4 books a month. We are doing The Truth Is Changed, and you get a podcast out of it as well. And you can submit your questions at thenomikishow@gmail.com. Go check it out right now. We are so proud to be partnering with, I just hit the camera. That was not good. We are so proud to be partnering with Verso Books, our friends over at Verso Books. So they're going to be working with us on some of their new releases and offering their authors to have exclusive conversations with us as they are being released. So we're excited for this book club. All right. Speaking of books, this one is fascinating to me. I love exploring areas that I'm like completely unfamiliar with, but this is super interesting in terms of ethics. Professor Deborah Levitt, she is an assistant professor of culture and media studies at the New School, and she is the author of the book, The Animatic Apparatus, Animation, Vitality, and the Futures of Images. We are excited to have her on the show. Hello, Deborah. Oh, you are on mute. The constant saga of mute. So much fun. Can you unmute yourself? Are you able to do so?
Yes.
There you go. We got it. Welcome to the show. Appreciate having you.
Thank you so much for having me, Nomiki. Really a pleasure to be here.
Thanks. So I think this is such a fascinating topic. I love learning about things that are right in front of our faces, but I've never thought about the ethics of animation. And, when you see these movies, clearly like they're done, behind there's green screens. And I think, and we'll probably see more of it with the pandemic in terms of filming. But what inspired you to write this?
It was really trying to think about what happens between the 20th century when people see images or photographic images as reflections of a real world, even if they know that images can be staged. That's the basic assumption. To the 21st, when there's Photoshop and CGI and simulations of all kinds. And we suddenly realize that the fundamental cultural assumptions about images have changed. And nobody really believes that a photograph is necessarily linked to something that actually happened in the real world.
I mean, it also just seems like the intention, like when Mickey Mouse was created, I don't think Walt Disney ever had the intention, although correct me if I'm wrong, for it to be in any way a simulation of reality. But now these cartoons, which Disney's a part of and others, and that's before we even get to CGI, are so like lifelike. And I mean, I feel like the pleasure of just the creativity behind art has shifted when you're watching these films now. It just doesn't give you that. I don't know, it's just almost like a loss of innocence if I were to come up with some sort of term for it. Like our imagination isn't able to like wander off into a distance.
I mean, I don't really think about it in terms of like, is it good or bad? But more in terms of what it indicates culturally. Because I think the fact that we can now look at images that may be completely produced in a computer, but are indistinguishable from, photographic images, it's a big contributor to what we think of as post-truth.
So where do we see this going in this post-truth world where images can be, they're not even manipulated, they look like they're real, right?
I mean, we see it right now in these sort of algorithm wars between people who are creating deep fakes and people who are trying to figure out how to forensically detect them.
So what does that mean? Like a deep fake, just for folks who may not be aware.
So an image that looks like it might be of, or it looks exactly like, let's just say, President Obama speaking, because there have been famous demos of deep fakes using Obama. But the soundtrack has been completely shifted so that he's saying something entirely different than he is, right? So it looks like a presidential speech or pronouncement, but it's not. And it's actually very difficult or really impossible if you're just watching it as if you're looking at a computer or television screen to determine whether it's real or fake.
How much does it cost to kind of produce this type of work? I mean, is this something that requires, studio animators and a large amount of funding, or is it something that a kid could do from his basement, for whatever their agendas are?
That's such a good question, Nomiki, and I can't answer that very specifically, except to say that, you need you need a definite level of expertise, but you don't need like an industrial animation studio.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some reporting in the last couple of years about how there are these social media accounts where, I mean, New York Times did a big story on this, where the photos and the social media accounts are like, none of them are real. They're compilations of different features of faces. And the goal is to, like you said, this post-truth world where they create accounts and they use those accounts as weapons of mass destruction, I guess, information destruction and character assassination, smears. We know how the internet works. Do you consider this is sort of part of that landscape?
Definitely. And it's why it's hard for me to say, let's just get back to truth. Because I feel like the truth of public discourse was more a set of norms that we relied on to create kind of consensus or work with dissensus when it was there. And now, because of all of the shifts in media ecology, those norms are no longer there. So I feel like the sort of answer isn't so much let's get back to the real facts, even though I would love to get back to the real facts. But what do we want these new norms to be, right? In a moment where images, sound, speech, we have no guarantee that they have a particular link to something that happened in the real world.
I mean, is there some sort of oversight? Like, I think that there's so much conversation even today, whether it's the impeachment of Trump and the criticisms of how tech companies and these media platforms have facilitated conspiracy theories and misinformation and, all the other things that happen online. But simultaneously, even on the left, there's criticism of Neera Tanden for, doing some of those same things on the left. But one piece that I just feel like is constantly separated from this, rather than having a public discourse and informing, folks who may not be as online as some of us are, the tech companies, like, surely they have to know what's real and what's not. And I mean, I think the algorithms are one thing, but how about just shutting down these accounts? I mean, do they have a sense of like what's real and what's not right now?
I mean, I don't know to what extent they know what's real and what's not, but to me, from my perspective, they're clearly too powerful. And there has to be some regulation of what they're enabled to do, right? Because they're profit-making companies, they're not public services, and yet those are now the platforms that we rely on, or many of us rely on for a lot of our information. So, I mean, something has to give here.
And as of
Also
right now,
because
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say also because we're being so constantly surveilled, or data mined in any event, and that information is used to draw people in deeper, you know, like there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of work done recently on the way algorithms amplify extreme views and create sort of echo chambers or filter bubbles, as it were. So, what do we need to do about that? You know, how do we need to think about big tech? And also, in terms of the left, what kind of new norms do we want, right? And how can we push to establish them?
One thing, I mean, we talk about this on the show a lot. I'm a broken record on it, but it's not just that these algorithms are pushing people towards extremism. They're leaving out voices and making it harder for the facts to push through, or frankly, diversity to push through. I mean, these algorithms are built for the most part. I mean, this has been exposed, at least on Google's end, by white men who may or may not have an agenda. Sometimes it's conscious, sometimes it isn't. But they're like, they're monetizing this hatred and anybody who can like on the periphery of it. But if you operate in like the PBS world, or I don't know what you want to, Democracy Now or whatever, if Democracy Now were to launch today, it would have a much more difficult time, you know, getting up off the ground, especially if there are people of color and women hosting the show, because, you know, for YouTube's algorithm, it just doesn't reward it. And simultaneously, there's other platforms too where you're seeing the same thing. I think it's a real conversation on the left. I mean, we have an entire show on Fridays dedicated to having only women on the show to have conversations that need to kind of like be pushed through. And our way of doing so is by partnering up with other shows and building solidarity. As always, it's like that's kind of how you do it. You have to organize to defeat. They make us do all the hard work while they could just, you know, switch it easily. It's like not a lot of work for them to do it. But I mean, you're a professor in this space. I do you feel like the tech companies are feeling the heat in any way other than just shutting down like a few bad actors?
I don't know if they are, but they should be.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that's one of the big agenda items that we need to look at now.
Hear, hear. Deborah Levitt, I wish we had more time with you. It's a crazy day today, so there's a lot of news. But please go check out Deborah Levitt's book. Let's put that up on screen one more time. It's the author. She's the author of The Animatic Apparatus: Animation, Vitality, and the Future of Image. What a fascinating subject. I really I'm very interested in learning a lot more and having more conversations. So thanks for joining us. You're welcome to come back on anytime.
Great to be here, Nomiki. Thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. All right, we will be right back with Simon Narode and Jordan Zakarin to talk about the insanity in the news today. There's impeachment, there's Neera, there's other stuff, if you can believe it. So we'll be right back. Hello, welcome back to the Nomiki Show. I am excited to have our Wednesday panelists here. We have Jordan Zakarin. He runs the Progressives Everywhere newsletter. Go check it out right now. Influencing folks. I heard you did some great work for Save Our Senate. Nabila Islam told me that you were helping out. So thank you. Solidarity. And we have Simon Rode, who is a former organizer for Bernie Sanders 2016, and he is part of the TNS team. So thanks for joining us today. Okay, it's all Trump all the time. That's what we're going to do. So just when we thought we were over Trump, we've got to learn our lessons because, as much as we want unity, it'd be great if we didn't have another coup anytime soon. That'd be great. So Donald Trump Jr. and Sean Hannity, just two besties. Donald Trump Jr. had a conversation with Sean Hannity about the Republican Party. Let's play that clip.
Ridiculous things
I don't
that
either.
are frankly much more inflammatory than anything that Donald Trump said. I'm not about that. Although if they're going to pursue these things, Republicans have to stop trying to play the game differently. We got to play hardball if they're playing hardball. We've been playing t-ball for generations while the Democrats have played hardball. We've turned the other cheek as they've slapped us in the face and laughed as they've won every major fight along the way while we claim some sort of moral high ground and losing everything.
I just gotta jump in here with you guys. As far as I know, the Republicans wiped us out in the last election when we should have won. We lost 1,200 seats to that. What world is he living in right now?
I love the Republican Party the Democratic Party that's described on Fox News. They always are tougher. They are dirtier. They are getting socialism enacted. They are slapping Republicans in the face. Yes. What they're saying is don't, threaten me with a good time. I wish this was the case. I wish they were dropping the filibuster and expanding the Supreme Court like I wrote this weekend. Donald Trump Jr., what you're saying, that's my fantasy. So let's make it happen.
It's funny because it's a lot of the stuff that the left, that we say to the Democratic Party, you got to fight harder. You got to fight these Republicans. You needed to fight Trump better when Trump was in office. All of these things. And now that Biden's president, the Republicans are using those arguments.
It's almost like he listens to our show and then is like, how can I use those words on the Democrats? Let's see if we can work this. All right, let's play the rest of the clip. There's more, don't worry.
That's what Donald Trump showed the Republican Party, that you can push back, that you don't have to go with their norms, that you don't have to listen to the media when they're just flagrantly putting out nonsense. You can actually push back, and I hope that the Republican Party does that. If they go back to the old ways of just rolling over and dying each and every time someone in the media wants to write a mean piece about them because they can't stand them or their constituents or Donald Trump's 75 million people that voted for him in this country, the highest of any conservative in the history of America, there's no future for the party. So they better learn from that. And as much as I despise the notion of it, we have to be playing the same game. So we got to come out aggressively. We got to pursue those kind of ideas if they're going to do it. It's the same with cancel culture. Notice that only goes one way. I'm not for cancel culture, but if they're going to use it against us, against half of the country on a daily basis and use it to get rid of people, to suppress them, to bully them. And it's bullying in so many cases. If they come after me, it's one thing. I got a platform. I'm a big boy. When they go after some of these people that don't have any platform, they try to attack them, as CNN has done with random people who post something on Facebook. That kind of bullying has to stop, and we have to push back accordingly.
Hey, Don, look what's happening. It's cancel culture. Oh, are you or have you ever been a supporter of Donald Trump?
Wow. Okay. So much to unpack there. He's a big boy, guys. He has a platform.
I think that should be in the quotations when they put his name, Donald Big Boy Trump Jr. It's
so comical to me, but But this is what he envisions as the future of the Republican Party. You know, when they cancel you, you got to cancel them. I'm like, you're saying the quiet thing out loud, Donald. That's the playbook.
He sounds like a replacement level talk drive-by talk radio host at this point. That's what he sounds like. He sounds like a Hannity, a Mark Levine, or whoever their people are at this point. Like that's what he sounds like he's auditioning to do, more than like actually saying anything. It's remarkable. Like, he's been listening to it, I guess, for the last 4 or 5 years because they just fawn over his dad like he does, and now he's just repeating the same thing. And I think the funny thing about cancel culture is the only people who ever get canceled, so to speak, are like people on the left or Democrats, because there are consequences there. You know, no matter what, like no Republican ever goes down because they're dirty or shady. That never happens. So cancel culture only actually impacts people on the left anyways.
Yeah, well, I mean, Milo would disagree with you. He's really suffering a tough life now.
He's annoying. I think that's the thing. It's not. It's more than anything else. Just annoying.
Well, it feels like the Republicans, like Don Jr. here, but Republicans in general, just say cancel culture like as like a when they run out of other things to say. Like it's just a thing that they throw out all. It's like its meaning is constantly changing. Like what is cancel culture in this clip? Like what's he talking about? Like people being mean to you online, or like people in the it's unclear. And I think that's
I think it's probably like when people look into his finances and ask for his tax returns, and he's just like, oh my God, you're trying to cancel me. Stop shining the light on government and family and like my role in the White House. And oh my God, you're showing those pictures of me killing lions and bears and beautiful creatures. Stop canceling me.
I wish I could use cancel culture in high school when I was getting detention all the time. Like, stop trying to cancel me. Just skip class and went out a window.
Stop trying to cancel me for giving me a B. I mean, it really is like the epitome of like white privilege, to be honest. It's, if I can throw that out there, people who are like, cancel culture. It's always the whiny white babies whose parents are rich. Donald Trump Jr. All right. Donald Trump Sr. You know, there's some serious things going on. He's being impeached right now. Let's play, let's put up his latest. Oh, got it. Oh, we don't have it. Just kidding. We'll keep going. The Trump Twitter situation. All right. So Trump impeachment attorney David Schoen says that Democrats have used, quote, rhetoric that is just as inflammatory or more so than Trump. But, quote, the problem is they don't have the followers, the dedicated followers when they give the speeches. So again, like this seems to be their thing now, is moving in a direction where the Democrats are just as toxic. And the problem is that they're just not as organized, or they don't have this cult leader, which I guess is true. But, you know, the country did vote for Joe Biden. So
they knock on doors. They don't break down walls of the Capitol, I think is the difference.
Fair enough.
You know, I think that's the thing. Like, there is something to be said for the maniacal devotion of Trump supporters versus Democratic supporters, obviously. But Trump knew that and weaponized it. I think that's the point. You know, like he clearly pointed like a loaded gun at the Capitol and just said, all right, I'm going to fire. And that's the whole point. He revved them up for 4 years. So Schoen's basically saying Donald Trump knew he had violent, insane followers, and he did something with it.
Yeah, great defense, isn't it? It's a little, I mean, even if it's true that like the Democrats have the same inflammatory language, I think that the Democrats in this case are so much more focused on the end consequences of Donald Trump's inflammatory language, like the insurrection at the Capitol, for instance. Like Democrats are not instigating insurrections at the Capitol. I mean, that's.
I can't believe that. Like, what? The fact that we even have to say that, come on. It's insane.
You know what? This whole thing, it's really important that he's on trial, and you know, obviously, it sucks that they're not going to find him guilty because Republicans, almost all of them, voted against, saying he was unconstitutional. But I also wish that I didn't have to defend Democrats so much because you know, they're trying to, some of them want to take down the minimum wage. They want to take down the number of people who can get stimulus checks. Like, I hate having to say no. Chuck Schumer and all these people are good people and Republicans are bad. I want to move past that. I want to be able to say, we got to put pressure on these people. I want to breathe down Joe Manchin's neck, not, freak out about Rand Paul's doodling while watching the trial.
Yeah. Wasn't that part of it though, Simon? Like this the Biden administration wants to move on and not go through this trial. Progressives want to hold Trump accountable so this doesn't happen again and that we actually get to some of the root causes. But simultaneously, while this trial is dragged out, we actually have less of an opportunity to hold Biden accountable for, letting Manchin get away with what he's getting away with, or Neera Tanden being tested. I mean, how do we do both things at once? Can we chew gum and walk?
We can. We absolutely can and should be holding Biden accountable. I mean, in a worst case, this impeachment trial distracts from the things that Biden and his administration are doing or not doing that they should be doing. And as progressives, it's really our responsibility to make sure that the people who have political power, like Donald Trump has a lot of social power and some political sway, but he does not hold a position of office anymore. So we should be really focusing a lot of our attention on Joe Biden and his administration and making sure that they're doing the things that people need them to be doing right now. But like you said, we can do both at the same time, and we should be. Talking about where everything that Donald Trump did and represents is unacceptable and shouldn't be tolerated for future presidents.
It moves it, right? Like, that's how the Overton window slowly moves. And I mean, I don't know how we could ever end up doing what they did, but some of this stuff, I mean, I said at the top of the show, and it's really what was so obvious to me today was Neera Tanden has her followers aren't as hateful, but she orchestrated a lot of the same networks that the right uses. Maybe not as many, but she had her own Twitter armies and Reddit communities and pushed out conspiracy theories about the left. When the left talked about money in politics or targeted certain consultants or,
And you know this firsthand.
Tell me about it. But it's not just that I know it firsthand. Others have experienced it. We've been talking about this for years. And the reason why I won't stop talking about it is because it was hurtful. It was scary. And yes, I don't tweet as much anymore. And I don't want to, throw out as many punches. And that's the strategy, is to silence people. But that's also the right-wing strategy. And some of their followers took it into violence to silence the squad, to challenge the election, to haunt them. I mean, this is real. There are real consequences to this, and it's happening everywhere right now. And I don't know if we're really doing much. I mean, I guess we could play this clip of Twitter shutting down Trump permanently, but clearly that's not enough. Let's roll the clip.
Former President Trump was banned. If he came back, ran for office again, and was elected president, would you allow him back on the platform?
So the way our policies work, when you're removed from the platform, you're removed from the platform, whether you're a commentator, you're a CFO, or you are a former or current public official. And so remember, our policies are designed to make sure that people are not inciting violence. And if anybody does that, we have to remove them from the service, and our policies don't allow people to come back.
Isn't that just putting a Band-Aid on it?
I think I wish they'd done this years ago. It's not that impressive they're doing it when he can't when he can't do anything about it. He doesn't have and his legal bills are going to be out the window, through the roof, and he has lawyers who are almost hilariously incompetent. So, I love Bruce Castor. I could watch him all day. So I wish they would do more about it. Obviously, it's good that they are sticking to their guns. We'll see. Although I do wish they'd let him on for this week just to see how mad he gets. I would love to just see, maybe even just on Periscope. I know they're getting rid of that, but just to see him fume, that would be really funny. But of course, yeah, it's certainly too little too late.
And so, Simon, it's too little too late, but it doesn't get rid of the problem. The root problem is still there. And if part of that root problem is also being used on the other side against the left, are we ever going to be able to deal with this? And I don't know how this isn't the tipping point, frankly.
Yeah, that's why it was really, it was frustrating to see the, with Neera Tanden, so much, Republicans telling her, we didn't like what you said about us on Twitter, blah, blah, blah. Would love to have some people from the left say the same thing to her. Because right now it looks like it's Republicans versus Democrats, it's a team battle. And so you just sort of pick your team and hope that your side wins, when that's really not how we should be looking at politics, obviously. We have to talk about how, the Democratic Party is fairly conservative as well. And so we should really be pushing her from the left. And there's not a lot of push from the left. And it's really frustrating to see. Yeah, and you're right that this doesn't address the root problem. The root problem of Donald Trump is his ideology that he was spreading.
I mean, the way that the platforms are built to raise, to spread misinformation and fighting and all this stuff, which, obviously I've had my own part in, in these battles, and I'm sure, many of us have. But the way that the platforms are designed is that they make money off of this, whether it's right-wing conspiracies being pushed forward or Democratic left infighting or conspiracy theories that aren't fact-checked. And it's how capital works. But on her side, there is a real consequence. I mean, she was out there doing the work for the donors who funded CAP, the donors being corporate interests and foreign entities who had a real goal in influencing the Democratic Party platform, in silencing folks who had on the left who had platforms or power, or smearing them, attacking them, eliminating from the space. And that I worry. I mean, will there ever be any accountability for that? And will these patterns continue? Do you guys have any predictions?
I think that we're seeing a lot of, institutions that have long been seen as nonpartisan or just kind of part of the game being called out. I think, we saw the Harvard think tank or the economist group there that were clearly funded by, financial interests and using terrible data to say that $1,500 checks. I mean, the check shouldn't go to people who made above $50,000, right? That is being, they're being exposed. We're seeing the CBO, which is clearly, it's been about deficit reduction. That's been their entire mission the entire time, that they have their data is always skewed. And so I think before, we can make any huge changes or, to be able to enact ongoing big changes, those sorts of institutional rot needs to be exposed. And I think that is happening slowly. And I think that it's going to take time to, we need people who are younger, who haven't been in Washington for 40, 50 years, dealing with the same people over and over again, to bring a fresh outlook. But I think that's really important, getting that sort of, things just didn't seem like a big deal. That was just part of the game before. I think that the left needs to expose the institutional rot as much as any, individual policy.
Or they just weren't aware of it. They just weren't. I mean, the fact that John Kennedy in itself was talking about Twitter. I mean, that any of these senators were their staffers are listen, okay, I know you're not on this. I know that we do your tweeting, but just read this tweet. Well, how do I read it? Tell me, was this an email or was this a tweet? Just say, Neera Tanden, you tweeted this out, and then quote the Twitter. That's all you got to do. All right. I don't know, Simon. I mean, do you think that we're ever...
No, I mean, there's always going to be people doing the bidding of capital, spreading capital propaganda. There's going to be these people online. They're going to be people we don't like online. That's unfortunate. And sometimes we can bring a strong voice in opposition to them. I mean, you did on Twitter, and Neera Tanden has a lot of people who don't like her on Twitter. And sometimes quote tweets of Neera Tanden get more likes and positive response than her tweets themselves. So sometimes we can sort of in the online battle. But I think a lot of the time it's important to remember that the little feuds that we have online with Neera Tanden they play to a small audience.
They play to a small audience, but they're about what she's doing. I mean, that's why I opened with this, and I was like, do I really want to touch this? And I thought, no, because what it does is it's about sowing dissent for, she is in the ecosystem of influence, which is Twitter, unfortunately, where journalists are on there and leaders are on there and organizers and everyday folks who just want to voice their opinion. I mean, this is a space in which those who are interested in the game of politics, hash it out. And not everybody is in that game, but you can, and it's democratized. So you have the potential to be so. So I take it a little bit more seriously just because I've seen the kind of professional damage it's done to people.
I think we're also seeing tech platforms, they have their thumb on the scale in a big way, right?
Yeah.
Twitter didn't, they removed Trump after all this, but, Facebook, they've just allowed politics to go back to as usual. They talk about maybe they're going to reduce politics on the main feed. We'll see. But like, I have the names in front of me, like the people who were linked to most, the top performing links on U.S. Facebook pages yesterday or the day before. Top 10, it's Franklin Graham, Dan Bongino, USA Patriots for Donald Trump, Dan Bongino, Bernie Sanders, Ben Shapiro, Fox News. And so until that thumb on the scale is taken off, we're fighting such an uphill battle, for any sort of like actual information to get out there. And that stuff influences conservatives, influences base Republicans, and forces them to, they wind up calling their senators. They make a big deal out of it. And, that helps the Democrats try to be bipartisan, and that it's all, it goes right from there.
Meanwhile, they're like, lawyers are part of the administration now. So. Yeah,
right. Yeah. The big tech antitrust not looking great.
Not looking great. Final thoughts? Go ahead.
I was just going to say a lot of the same things that Jordan was saying, because you were talking about how the platform, it's democratized. And I'm saying, well, it feels like it sometimes. Right. It's also not an even playing field. And I think that, of course, capital has a lot to do with that, right? Like, there's a reason that Donald Trump wasn't removed from Twitter until like the end of his administration, because, Twitter was like the go-to place for like hearing the words of the president. And it was huge for their platform. They made a lot of money off of Donald Trump being there. And so we have to, of course, like acknowledge the capital influence.
Simon Jordan, what a day.
Hopefully stop talking about Donald Trump on this show.
He's like a phantom limb that all of a sudden came back. Like, there's a quiet in your head where you don't, where Donald Trump used to be, and now all of a sudden I'm seeing on TV they're like they're showing his tweets and throwing his speeches, and I'm like, oh God, I forgot. But
yeah. To be fair, he is being impeached, so I mean, it's a little newsy.
It's for a good reason, but geez, it's so strange all of a sudden to hear him again after a month of quiet.
I know. It's been great. We've just been like, what do we want to talk about on the show? No, of course not. All right, as always, Simon Narode, Jordan Zakarin, thank you for joining. Always a pleasure. We'll see you next week right here, same space. And to all of our chat members here, let's take a look. Prairie Fire Kowalski from Nebraska sends me a cup of coffee. Gracias for that. Ian Kinzel says, I'll laugh if Tanden winds up getting blocked because of being too incompetent to avoid getting her own hands dirty, smearing other people. Oof. Name creative sends some love, says, I want to thank Mr. Smalls, Chris Smalls, for showing that it is possible to organize and fight for what you're worth. 100% Chris Smalls shout out, and all the Amazon workers who are organizing right now, and all workers who are organizing or thinking about organizing. Thank you to Harvey K, who is in the live chat. He is in YouTube and Twitch. And Mididocs and Mario Q for working those algorithms. And as always, our moderators, Bob Choke in the Orb and Chuck Diesel on YouTube, and Dorian Sapiens, A Difficult Truth, and Nug Wrangler on Twitch for keeping the chat room troll free. We will be right here tomorrow, same time, same place. Thank you to our patrons. Thank you to our Twitch people, Twitchers, I'm just kidding, guys. I'm just messing with you. Thank you to everybody who has been watching us live. And of course, thank you to our listeners on podcast. All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Stay in solidarity.